The police showed up at my door and told me I have a daughter I never knew about who was born 15 years ago. Her mother is serving a life sentence, and now I have no idea what to do. The knock on my door was firm, almost urgent. I had no reason to expect visitors, let alone 2 police officers standing on my doorstep. My heart pounded as I opened the door, my mind racing with questions. "Mr. Carter?" one officer asked, his expression unreadable. "Yes." My voice was steady but my gut twisted with unease. He exchanged a glance with his partner before saying, "We need to talk to you about your daughter." I blinked. My what? The word daughter echoed in my head like a foreign concept. I did not have kids. At least I thought I did not. "Her name is Emily. She is 15 years old, the officer continued. "Her mother is currently serving a life sentence, and Child Services needs to know if you will take custody." My legs nearly gave out beneath me. A daughter? 15 years? How was this even possible? The world around me seemed to blur as the officer's words sank in. A daughter? I had gone nearly 4 decades without ever thinking I had a child out there. My past relationships had never been stable, but I had never imagined something like this could happen. "Are you sure?" I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. The second officer, a woman with kind but firm eyes, nodded. "We have documentation confirming paternity. We understand this is shocking, but we need to discuss next steps." I stepped back, motioning for them to come inside. My hands were shaking and I felt like I had stepped into someone else's life. I had spent years building a quiet, predictable existence, one that did not involve children, let alone a teenager with a mother in prison. I gestured toward the couch but I did not sit. I could not. The officers explained that Emily's mother, Rachel, had been convicted of a violent crime and was serving life without parole. She had hidden her pregnancy from me all those years ago. No calls, no letters, no chance for me to know I had a daughter. And now, suddenly, I was expected to step up. "She has been in the foster system for nearly a year," the female officer explained. "Her mother refused to name you until recently, and by the time we confirmed the paternity test, Emily had already been in 3 different homes. She needs stability." I ran a hand through my hair, my mind spinning. "And if I say no?" The officer sighed. "She will remain in foster care. But given the circumstances, you are her only known biological parent. The system would rather place her with family." Family. The word felt heavy. I had never planned to be a father. Could I even do this? 15 years ago, my life was very different. I was in my early 20s, reckless and drifting from one job to another. I had been in a casual relationship with Rachel, but we were never serious. She was wild, always chasing the next thrill, and our time together was more about having fun than building anything meaningful. One day she disappeared without a word. I did not think much of it at the time. People like Rachel came and went and I assumed she had moved on. I never reached out, never wondered where she had gone. Now, I was learning that during that time she had been pregnant with my child and had chosen to keep it a secret. Hearing the officer say her name brought back memories I had long buried. Rachel had always been unpredictable, but a life sentence? I had no idea what she had done and a part of me was afraid to ask. What kind of life had Emily been living? The thought of my daughter growing up without me, bouncing from home to home, made my chest tighten. Did she even know about me before now? Was she angry that I had never come for her? I had spent the last decade working hard to turn my life around. I had a stable job in IT, a modest apartment and a comfortable routine. No chaos, no drama, exactly how I liked it. But now, all of that was being thrown into uncertainty. The officers handed me a file with Emily's details. Her school records, her foster placements, even a picture. I hesitated before looking. When I finally did, my breath caught. She had my eyes. I had spent years believing I would never be a father, and now the truth was staring me in the face. "She deserves a chance at a real home," the officer said. "This is your opportunity to be in her life." I swallowed hard. Was I ready for this? After the officers left, I sat in silence, staring at the file they had given me. My mind was racing. How was I supposed to react to this? Just a few hours ago, my biggest concern had been finishing a work project on time. Now, I had a teenage daughter who had been living without me for 15 years. I flipped through the file again, scanning the documents inside. Emily had been placed in foster care when she was only 3 years old. The notes mentioned multiple placements, some temporary, some lasting for a few years. She had no stable home, no long-term guardian. The realization made my stomach churn. I looked at her picture again. She had my dark brown eyes, the same ones I saw in the mirror every morning. Her expression was serious, like she was used to keeping her guard up. I had never wanted kids, not because I hated the idea but because I never thought I would be a good father. My own father had walked out on me when I was 10, and I barely remembered what it was like to have a dad. Now, the universe was throwing this at me. Was I about to repeat history? I spent the entire night thinking, barely getting any sleep. By morning, I had made up my mind. I had to meet her. Even if I was not ready, she deserved to know who I was. I called the caseworker assigned to Emily's file. Her name was Linda, and she had a calm, professional tone when she spoke. "Emily is aware that she has a father, but she has never met you," Linda explained. "She has been in foster care for a long time. Right now, she is in a temporary placement, but she is almost 16 and soon she will age out of the system if no permanent home is found for her." Hearing that made my chest tighten. "What happens when she ages out?" I asked. Linda sighed. "It depends. Some kids find jobs, some struggle. Many do not have a support system. That is why we wanted to contact you. This could be an opportunity for her to finally have stability." The weight of her words settled over me. "Can I meet her?" I finally asked. Linda agreed to set up a meeting at the foster home where Emily was currently staying. What was happening? Whether I was ready or not, I was about to meet my daughter. 2 days later, I drove to the foster home. It was a small, weathered house in a quiet neighborhood. My palms were sweaty as I parked outside. What if she hated me? What if she wanted nothing to do with me? I knocked on the door and a middle-aged woman answered. You must be Alex, she said with a warm smile. Come in. Emily is in the living room. I stepped inside and saw her immediately. She was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, watching me with a guarded expression. Emily, Linda said gently, this is your father. Emily's eyes flickered with something I could not read. She did not say anything right away. Hey, I said awkwardly. It is nice to meet you. She scoffed. Nice to meet me? I have been alive for almost 16 years, and you are just showing up now. Her words stung, but I understood why she was angry. I did not know about you, I said honestly. If I had, things would have been different. She leaned back into the couch, still skeptical. Sure. I looked at Linda, unsure of what to do. She gave me a reassuring nod, so I turned back to Emily. I know this is a lot. I am not expecting you to suddenly trust me, but I want to get to know you. If you are open to that. Emily studied me for a moment before shrugging. Whatever. I do not really have a choice, do I? You always have a choice, I told her. I just hope you give me a chance. There was a flicker of something in her expression. Doubt, maybe a little curiosity. I held on to that hope. The meeting ended after an hour, and as I drove home I realized something. I wanted to be in her life. Even if she pushed me away at first, I was not going to walk out on her. But I had no idea how difficult things were about to become. Over the next few weeks, I visited Emily regularly. At first, our conversations were short and filled with awkward silences. She answered my questions with one-word responses and barely made eye contact. But I kept showing up. I told her about my life, my job, and even shared embarrassing stories from my childhood. Slowly, her wall started to come down. One afternoon, while sitting outside on the foster home's porch, she finally asked the question I had been dreading. Why did my mom never tell you about me? I exhaled, preparing myself for the painful truth. I honestly do not know, I admitted. Your mother and I dated briefly, but we lost touch. She never told me she was pregnant. I wish she had. Emily nodded slowly, staring at her hands. She was not a great mom, she admitted. I barely remember her, but from what I do, she was always in trouble. I hesitated before asking, do you know why she is in prison? She scoffed. Yeah. She and her boyfriend got caught in a robbery gone wrong. Someone got hurt. She was sentenced to life. A chill ran down my spine. I had no idea she had been involved in something so serious. I had been angry at her for keeping Emily from me, but now I just felt numb. She wrote me letters, Emily continued. For a while I wrote back. But then I stopped. It felt like she was just making excuses. That must have been hard, I said gently. Emily shrugged. I got used to it. She said it so casually, but I could hear the pain in her voice. No child should have had to go through what she did. A few days later, I was contacted by Linda. She wanted to discuss the next steps regarding Emily's future. When we met at her office, she got straight to the point. Emily will be 16 soon, and the system is not always kind to older kids. We wanted to ask if you would consider taking custody of her. I froze. Custody? Yes. Right now, she is in a temporary placement, but if you are willing, you could become her legal guardian. The weight of the decision crushed me. I had barely gotten used to the idea of having a daughter, and now I was being asked to become her father in every legal sense. Would she even want that? I asked hesitantly. Linda smiled. Why do you not ask her yourself? That night, I took Emily out to dinner. It was the first time we had done something normal together. As we sat across from each other, I finally brought up the topic. Emily, I need to ask you something important. She raised an eyebrow. Okay. The state wants to know if I am willing to take custody of you, I said. I do not want to make this decision for you, so I need to know how you feel about it. Emily stared at me, her expression unreadable. You want me to live with you? I nodded. Only if you want to. I know this is sudden and I do not want to pressure you, but I want to be there for you. She fidgeted with her napkin, looking down. I do not know, she admitted. I have never really had a real home. You would have one with me, I assured her. You do not have to decide right away. Just think about it. For the first time, I saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. But just when I thought things were moving in the right direction, everything took a turn for the worse. One evening, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a cold, familiar voice sent a chill down my spine. Hello, Alex. It was Emily's mother. She had somehow managed to get my number from inside prison. You think you can just take my daughter? She sneered. She is mine. I clenched my jaw. You lost that right when you abandoned her. She laughed bitterly. She does not need you. You do not even know how to be a father. My hands shook with anger. You had 15 years to be her mother and you failed. I will not let you ruin what little chance she has left at a real future. You think she will choose you over me? She taunted. We will see about that. The call ended, but the damage was done. A storm was coming and I had no idea if Emily and I would make it through. Emily's mother's call haunted me for days. The way she spoke, calm, remorseful, and almost pleading, played on my emotions more than I wanted to admit. But I had to remind myself that this woman had spent years neglecting her daughter. One apology over the phone did not erase the past. I tried to push it out of my mind and focus on Emily. She had been with me for a few months now, and every day I saw her growing more comfortable. She had started opening up, talking more about her school, her friends, and even her hobbies. She was no longer the quiet, withdrawn girl who had first walked into my home. But there were still moments when she seemed distant, lost in thought, staring at her phone or a letter in her hands. One evening, as we sat in the living room watching TV, I noticed her fidgeting with a folded piece of paper. Emily, I said gently, what is that? She hesitated, then handed it to me. It was a letter from her mother. I got this a week ago, she admitted. I did not know if I should show you. I carefully unfolded it, scanning the words. Her mother had written an emotional plea, talking about how much she regretted her past mistakes. She spoke of the life she had lost, the daughter she missed, and how she wanted to rebuild their relationship. How do you feel about this? I asked, setting the letter down. Emily shrugged. I do not know. A part of me wants to believe her. But another part, I do not want to get hurt again. I nodded. It is okay to feel that way. It is okay to be cautious. She sighed. I wish she had tried before she got caught. That hit me hard. Emily did not just want an apology, she wanted proof that her mother cared before she was backed into a corner. Now that she was in prison, words came easy. But when she was free, she had abandoned her own child. Still, I knew I could not make this decision for Emily. You do not have to rush into anything, I told her. If you want to write back, you can. If you do not, that is okay too. Emily thought about it for a long moment. Then she shook her head. I think I just need more time. And I respected that. Over the next few months, Emily and I settled into a routine. I helped her with homework, we went out for ice cream on the weekends, and I even introduced her to my best friend, Jake, who quickly became like an uncle to her. But things were not always easy. There were nights when she had nightmares. She would wake up crying and I would find her curled up in her bed, hugging her knees. I never pushed her to talk about them, but I always sat with her until she calmed down. One night, after another nightmare, she finally opened up. It was about her, she whispered. She was yelling at me, saying it was my fault she was in prison. That I ruined her life. I felt my chest tighten. Emily, none of this is your fault. I know, she said, but her voice was uncertain. I sighed. It is going to take time. But you do not have to go through this alone. I am here. Always. She looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw trust in her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. And from that moment on, I knew I was not just responsible for Emily, I was her family. A few weeks later, I received a call from Linda. I have some good news, she said. What is it? Emily has made her decision. She wants to stay with you permanently. I nearly dropped my phone. Are you sure? Yes, Linda confirmed. She told me herself. She said she finally feels safe with you. Hearing those words nearly brought tears to my eyes. Later that night I sat Emily down. So, Linda told me you made a decision, I said carefully. Emily nodded. Yeah, I want to stay. Are you sure? I asked. There is no pressure. Whatever you choose, I will support you. She hesitated, then said, for the first time in my life I feel like I have a home. I do not want to lose that. I reached out and squeezed her hand. Then that settles it. The custody process took a few more weeks, but eventually, it became official. I was now Emily's legal guardian. To celebrate, I took her out to her favorite restaurant. As we sat across from each other, I said, so, how does it feel to officially have me as your guardian? Emily smirked. Weird, but also, kind of nice. I chuckled. I will take that as a compliment. As we ate, she suddenly asked, do you think of me as your daughter? I was caught off guard by the question. Yes, I admitted. I do. She looked down at her plate, a small smile playing on her lips. I think I see you as my dad too. My heart swelled at her words. That means a lot, Emily. For the first time in years, I felt like I had found something I did not even know I was missing. A family. Life was not perfect and I knew we would face more challenges ahead. But for now we had each other. And that was enough. What would you do if you found out you had a daughter you never knew about? Do you think Emily made the right decision? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.